I can't make a video without water. I need something to do while I'm nervous. Uh, I just bought a little heater today. I don't know if you can see it down there on the floor. It was like $20. And it looks like it might be too much for my generator to handle. It has a 1300 watt setting and a 1500 watt setting, and my generator is made for, it says the generator is sold as a 2000 watt generator, but that's not actually the max output. I think the max output is somewhere around like 1480 or something. With like the, what's it called? If you have like the max surge, it can handle a high amount up close to 2000, maybe closer to like 18,000, 1800, sorry, 1800 watts. This is what I look like without a wig on. So right now the heater's turning on and turning off, like it runs for like maybe 20 seconds and then it turns off again for maybe 20 seconds, something like that. I don't know. It's already turned on and shut off since I started this video. But why Trump wanting to be president forever is not the problem. Or Trump wanting to be president forever is not the problem. Not necessarily why, but just it's not the problem. Or I guess why too. Yeah, there's a why in there. Why is it not the problem, or why is it not a problem that, assuming Trump wanted to be president forever, and I think anybody who becomes president probably wants to be president forever. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe some people are just like, yeah, fuck this job after 4 years. I don't know how many does it ever happen that a president after his first 4 years was just like, yeah, no, I'm not running again. I mean, I love the country, but yeah, this job is too much. I'm losing my hair because of it, right? I'd rather have my hair than be famous. But why is it not a problem if Trump wants to be president forever? People are saying that Trump wants to be president forever. Well, first of all, who doesn't want to be president forever? If you had that position and you felt you were good at it, and you felt like people liked you, and you were doing a good job, which is the same as being good at your job. I did repeat myself just in a different way. And I'm a little bit worried about my generator turning off completely, but fortunately my extension cable has a little orange light in it, letting me know that the generator is still running. So I might be looking over here to see if it's still on. Of course, I'm looking all over the place anyways, all the time, right? But why is it not a problem if Trump wants to be president forever? I would say it is because it's the people who want Trump to be president forever, right? Like me. Because when I look at the country, I think there's a lot of negativity in the country. I remember during the what was it? Was it after COVID? Before COVID? I think it was right after COVID. You had a lot of anti-America stuff going on. A lot of guilt tripping and race baiting and things like that. And it almost seemed like this was like some kind of psychological operation from another country. It almost seemed like, just take China, for example. And China's like, we want to take control of the United States. How are we going to do it? Well, first of all, we're gonna inject an idea into the media that America's built on a white supremacy. Right. Everything about America is white supremacist. The name, the flag, the Constitution. It's in the system. It's systemic racism. It's there from the get-go, right? So in order to get rid of racism, you have to wipe out the whole slate. And someone like me watching that, I'm like, holy shit, Can you wait till I'm dead before you wipe the slate clean? See, what's scary about that is there's not a vision proposed. It's not like, well, here's a better future. Here's what the new constitution will look like, or the new flag, or the new government, or whatever. But we know it won't be racists. That's all we know about it. If the system itself is inherently racist, how do you improve it without eradicating the whole system? Right? So things like that, things like inflation, things like the cost of living, like the cost. I used to rent an apartment. I moved out of my apartment in 2016. Not for good. I moved out of my apartment in 2016 to move to Atlanta. I was homeless for like the first 2 years that I was in Atlanta. Not living on the street. I was living partly in homeless shelters and partly like on people's couches or spare bedrooms, that sort of thing. In 2020, when the pandemic happened, I moved back to Salisbury, North Carolina, and moved into an apartment again, paying all of it out of my own pocket for the first time since I had left in 2016. Because I did have an apartment in Atlanta, but I wasn't paying for that all out of my own pocket. It was a government subsidized thing. But when I came back in 2020, the rent had already gone up. It had gone from $420 a month when I left in 2016 to 2020. It was around 6 something. I think when I moved out in 2022, it had already gone up to $730. And then in 2024, that same apartment is $1,000. So the cost of the apartment has more than doubled in 8 years. From 2022 to 2024, it went up from $730 to $1,000. So that's what, $270. It went up an extra $270, which is more than a third. It went up more than 33% in 2 years. So things like that, right? But my wages didn't go up that much. Of course, I don't work as many hours as I used to, but I would say the hourly rate, because I think in 2016 I was making $400 a week. Was that right? Yeah. $400 a week after taxes. Which was, so before taxes, that would be something like $13 an hour, I think. So right now, as an assistant manager, which is a higher position than what I had, and before I left, I'm now making about $14 an hour. So that's not a 33% increase. But in 2016, that was 8 years ago. So I've only increased $1 per hour over 8 years. But the cost of just the apartment has more than doubled. Right. So things like that. That I would say that of all the issues in America that impact me the most, that would be one. I'm not in favor of the open borders thing, but of course I don't really have a problem with uh, illegal immigrants in the just in the sense of them being here. Like I'm fairly certain where I work now, quite a few illegal immigrants shop there, and I don't feel like, yeah, you need to get out of here or anything like that. But I do feel like, you know, if you're gonna live here, then at least work on becoming a citizen, right? Pay your taxes and that sort of thing. I don't have so much of a problem with people moving here. It is more of the taking advantage of the system, that sort of thing, that I have an issue with. Uh, but it does look like at times like the country needs to be saved. I mean, it looks like the country is just, on the verge of falling apart. It almost in a kind of civil war kind of cataclysm kind of way, if not just a economic collapse kind of way. Also, one of those two. It's like it could be one or the other. Either it's going to be civil war or just outright economic collapse. Like the value of the dollar will just drop and people won't be able to buy anything. So I do watch these things, and I do have this kind of like urgent kind of need for some kind of, like, I want to get back to the time when people felt good about America and felt optimistic about the future of America, and felt like, this is the kind of country that will tackle kind of the what is it called, the human conundrum. What's it called? Uh, you might say the problem of existence itself, like why are we here and that sort of thing. That America would be the country to kind of attain to those heights of like the Roman Empire and the Greek civilization, even the Babylonians or the Egyptians or that sort of thing. And people might say, well, we're already at that height already. What are you talking about? I don't think so. For me, I think that is partly because I am into art, and when I look at like the things that America has produced, just in terms of its artistic output, I think, yeah, America is just a big machine. It's like a fast food, mass production type place. It's like almost like a farm. It's a good place for cows, right? It's not a good place for human beings. Really, probably not since the Renaissance, I think. I mean, if you think about like the artwork that was produced in the Renaissance, say just for example, the statue of David by Michelangelo, America has a higher quality of living than people living in Florence, Italy, in the mid 1400s. We have things like Photoshop. We have the ability to make movies, special effects, whatever. But when you look at what's produced by these things, it's mostly junk. It's mostly just disposable, kind of titillating, maybe in some sense, or maybe kind of a junk foods kind of sense. Uh, like people go buy candy, right? They know it's shit. They know that it has no nutritional value. It's just sweet, right? So we're gonna eat it anyways. But that's kind of how America is in terms of culture. It's the same way in terms of culture. That's why, like, when I compare it to the Roman Empire, I'm like, yeah, it doesn't even compete. Uh, where was I going with that? How did I get off on that? But yeah, I know. So yeah, I thought America could be that. I thought America could be this place where like there's like a second Renaissance. Maybe they shouldn't even call it a second Renaissance, but maybe like a almost like a new entire like the new standard, right? That we're setting the new standard for culture and kind of people looking at humans as like we are just like the the proof of God's existence. Like you don't even need to argue about God's existence. You can look at humanity and say, there's no doubt that God exists. Look at that. Uh, Because I think when a lot of people look at America, they don't have that feeling. They kind of have that like, well, if God exists, and what is all this shit? You know, why is it when I turn on the news, all I see are people getting shot and robbed at gas stations, and uh, I imagine that sort of thing happened in Florence, Italy, in the 1400s. I imagine that sort of thing probably happened in ancient Egypt, even while the pyramids were being built. Probably some guy was like, "Fuck you and your shoes. Those are my shoes now." You know, I'm sure this thing has been happening since the caveman times. Probably even worse in the caveman times. I don't even know. But I mean, that's the feeling that I get. It's like if I just that's one of the reasons why I don't like to watch television. It's because if I watch television for like 30 minutes, if I watch the news or some of these talk shows, I just get this feeling like I can't brag about living in this country, right? It's like when I talk to my French friend, my and by I mean he lives in France, and there are times when I'm kind of like I can't say that I'm proud to be an American. You know, but that was the sort of thing people used to say, like back in the '80s, right? Even into the '90s, I think people were still saying, "Yeah, like I'm proud to be an American." You know, some guy was so proud to be an American. I think it was in the '70s that he wrote a song about it, right? Because I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. Right? But that was a pretty decent song too. But you know, I don't really get that sense anymore. I get the sense that it's more like people who live here were like, yeah, America used to be great. But it's like it's like it's almost like a big wave crashed, right? You can see like America kind of rise up as this big wave, like, and then it kind of reached its peak right after the World War II. When World War II ended, the wave crashed, and then it's all like receding back into the ocean. Uh, but things happen like that, you know. There you have certain pressures. You know, there were certain pressures that caused America to rise up and become this great monolith in the middle of the civilized world. And then it just the pressure ran out because people started to think about, you know, how am I going to prove I have value? You know, how am I going to? Is America such a great place? But I have to prove that I have value. So I have to become a doctor and invest all my money in the stock market and I have to go get all these badges. It's like I'm in the Boy Scouts and I need to get like 8 badges. Uh, that was kind of the American dream after World War II. It wasn't like there's this common cause. You know, it wasn't like this country needs my support. It's more like, how am I going to validate my own existence? Yeah, I think that you see that a lot in the '90s, especially in the music. Uh, I think the '90s were for me, the '90s were the time when I would say the opinions about America started to drop. Maybe for other people it was before then, but so like in the '90s, I was a teenager, right? I was 18 years old in 1994, and most of the music on the radio was just kind of like, the theme was kind of like, what the fuck are we doing here? You I think "Smells Like Teen Spirit" was one of those songs that just kind of was like a born out of that, right? That was kind of that was kind of like the anthem in a way, because a lot of people felt that way. This is almost like the verses weren't this, but they could have been this. It's like, what the fuck are we doing here? Why did we get invited to this party that's not much of a party anymore? Maybe we can see that it used to be a party, but World War II is over. Vietnam didn't achieve the same effect. If people thought they were going to make America great again by going to war with the Vietnamese, it didn't work. So obviously, going to war is not the way to make ourselves great. Why it worked for World War II? Maybe it's because there was a victory. Maybe that's why it didn't work with Vietnam. There was no victory, but who knows why we were there in the first place? I'm sure somebody knows. But I think probably the average American probably can't explain it. I mean, I've seen enough movies to know that in the '70s, when people were protesting the Vietnam War, people were already starting to see America as this like thing to be feared, or the government at least. The government was a thing to be feared. Or what is the word? Suspected? Not suspected. What do you call it when you're suspicious of somebody? The government was something to be suspicioned. Suspicioned. I don't know. I don't know. I'm losing my steam here, folks. Where am I going with this? But yeah, there was another point that I wanted to make, which was that, like, for me, there is a desire to kind of have that pride back, right? Or at least to feel optimistic about the future. I'm not. I don't want to be someone who's afraid of change. I would say that I even like change. Most of my life has been all about change. Like, I've never had a job. The longest I've ever had one job is 4 years, and I probably have had 30 jobs at least in my life. Maybe not 30. I've been working because I've only been working for 30 years. But in just the last 2 years, I've had 3 different jobs. Yeah, 3 different jobs in the last 2 years. Or I've worked at 3 different places, I should say. Even at the place where I work now, I've had 3 different jobs. So, 3 different positions. But my point there was that I don't feel like I'm opposed to change. But I don't think that just destroying the country and expecting something better to pop up in its place is the solution. Because that does sound again like something that another country wants, not America, right? Yeah. I mean, because if you wanted to destroy the United States, if you were, say, China or Russia or somebody like that, and you just said, hey, you know what, I want to destroy the United States, but I see they have a really big military, really powerful military, so how would I destroy them? I wouldn't go fight them face to face with all our guns out. You know, I might buy a media company or get a social media account or these sorts of things, right? And so, like when people are like, "Yeah, we're gonna tear down the old system," who really wants that? Is it Americans or is it somebody else? You know, because if you really just want to tear down the old system, but you don't have a plan for what you're going to put in its place, whose will are you acting on? So yeah, like when I look to the future and I see people kind of in support of this, like doing away with the old way, I'm a little bit. That makes me a little bit wary because I don't hear people talking about the new way or the new system. Uh, so yeah, that may just be a kind of fear of death thing. Uh, but where I was going with that is that to some degree, in my own life, I do feel like it is the sort of thing not to worry about. That it is uh, like this is the one kind of ray of hope for me is that I don't have to worry about it. You know, I can choose to worry about it. I can say no. I need Trump in office for the rest of his life because without Trump in office, the whole place is going to go to shit. It's all going to fall apart without Trump in office. The inflation is going to go to the points where nobody can afford to live. Uh, the Democrats will have illegal aliens voting in the election. Republicans don't have any decent candidates besides Trump. Democrats don't have any decent candidates. There's nobody to vote for besides Trump, really. So we could say that Trump wanting to be president forever is not the problem because it's really the people who want Trump to be president forever. Uh, if Trump gets in office in 2024 and things go back to, people feeling good again and people being hopeful again and going out and spending money again and not living in this kind of like scarcity mind state where they're like afraid to spend money and afraid to start families or buy houses or whatever. Uh, if it reverts from that back to people are like life is good again. I think that should be Trump's slogan this time. I think in 2016, "Make America Great Again." That was a decent slogan, but I think in 2024 he should make life good again. Right? Because that's kind of my slogan. Make life good again. Right? But the thing is, I don't need Trump for that. I don't need Harris or Biden or anybody for that. I don't need the border secured for that. I don't need inflation to go down for that. So that's the good news. Is that even if Trump loses this election and Kamala Harris takes over and inflation goes so high that I can't even buy food. My life isn't ruined. That I can still live a good life. I do believe. Because even when the country was doing great, I wasn't living a good life. For most of my life, I wasn't living a good life. I'm 48 years old. I think for probably the first 36 years, I wasn't living a good life. When things started to turn around for me was when I started the trans thing, started exploring my gender and starting to getting into the whole thing of just discovering who I am and that sort of thing. And realizing that happiness doesn't come from all this stuff out here. I think the kind of human being that God wants people to be, or had kind of in that primordial vision of what a human being could be. God imagines some human being that thrives in any circumstance, right? Regardless of the circumstances. I mean, like unless you're drowning in the ocean, right? But if you're living out in the woods, you don't have a house. So what? I got this shit under control. This is my planet. I own this planet. Something like that. Goodbye.